HPCC Systems High Performance Computing Cluster Architectural Overview. Part 3, ESP and the Client Tools. Now in our first two videos we took a look first at the supercomputer layer, which was Thor and Roxy, and also the ECL agent. In Part 2 we took a look at the HPCC middleware layer, including Dolly, Sasha, the DFU, and the ECL server. In this last video we're going to take a look first at the Enterprise Services Platform and then later the client interfaces. Starting with the Enterprise Service Platform, this is the Intercomponent Communication Server. It is a framework that essentially allows multiple services to be plugged in to provide various types of functionality to client applications via multiple protocols. Now examples of services that are plugged into ESP include WS Attribute. This provides a SOAP interface to query and manipulate the ECL repository. WSECL. This provides an interface to either an ECL definition or a deployed query on a Roxy cluster. An important tool is the ECL Watch. This is a web-based query execution and monitoring and file management interface. It can be accessed via the ECL IDE or a web browser. Now examples of protocols supported by the ESP Server framework include HTTP, SOAP, REST, and some other proprietary protocols. Now a number of ESP services are used to provide a browser-based set of tools for managing your HPCC clusters, including ECL Watch. ECL Watch is an important tool that lets you see information about your active work units, monitor cluster activity, and browse through previously submitted work units so that you can see a visual representation of the data flow within the work unit, complete with statistics which are updated as the job progresses. ECL Watch also allows you to search through files and see information, including record counts and layouts, sample records, and the status of all system servers, whether they are in clusters or not. Also, ECL Watch allows you to view log files and start and stop processes when needed. Other examples of ESP-based tools are WSECL, and again this provides a form-based web interface to submit parameters to Roxy or ECL agent queries. The presentation of the form and the results returned is controlled by meta information which is embedded within the ECL code of the query. And WSECL is typically used by developers for simple query testing. We also have an ESP Roxy Config. Again, Roxy Config provides a web interface for controlling the deployment of queries to a Roxy cluster. Queries can be added, deleted, given aliases, suspended, and unsuspended. It can also provide access to statistics about the queries that have executed on a Roxy, including record counts and execution times. It also controls the use of package files, which govern the mapping of logical file names on a Roxy cluster. Overall, ESP services are used to provide a consistent SOAP interface for customer-facing products, for example, Accurant, and translating queries to and from the Roxy query interface. These queries may also handle authentication, logging, billing, and audit capabilities. Alright, so we've looked at the external communication layer, Enterprise Services Platform. Let's conclude this video with a look at our client interfaces. In addition to the web-based tools that are provided via ESP services such as ECL Watch and WSECL, the following client tools are also available in HPCC. First, we have a number of command line interfaces including DFU+, ECL+, and Roxy Config command line. Now these tools provide a more convenient access to functionality provided by the ECL Watch and Roxy Config web pages. They work by communicating with the corresponding ESP service via SOAP. And customers can write their own client tools using the SOAP interface where a SOAP interface has been published for them. Another client tool, and probably the most important that you're going to be using, is the ECL IDE. The ECL IDE is a full-featured GUI environment for ECL development, providing access to the ECL repository and many of the ECL Watch capabilities. The ECL IDE uses various ESP services via SOAP. Here's an overview of the ECL IDE. It's a programmer's tool providing the easiest way to create queries into your existing data and ECL definitions to help you build your queries, which are created by coding an expression that defines how some calculation or record set derivation is to be done. Once defined, it can be used in succeeding ECL definitions. The ECL IDE also makes all the ECL built-in functions available to you. They are automatically installed as plugins and appear as read-only modules in your repository tree. For example, the string library contains common functions to operate on string fields, such as the toUpperCase function, which converts characters in a string to uppercase. Using the ECL IDE, you can mix and match your data with any of the following: ECL built-in functions and ECL definitions that you have created. Once built, your queries are then sent to the HPCC for processing. Now let's take a look at the process flow for queries in HPCC. Again, we start by writing a query in ECL and submitting it. The work unit is submitted to the middleware via SOAP, and Dolly, then, the system data store, creates a work unit containing the query information. The ECL server compiles the query into native executable code and passes the work unit and executable code to the ECL agent. The ECL agent executes the query, submitting portions to Thor as required. Thor and the ECL agent update the work unit to reflect the results of the query and other statistics related to the execution, for example, timings. The client interface is notified that the work unit is complete and that the results can be displayed to the user. Communication between the client interface and the rest of the HPCC system is done via the SOAP interface to ESP. Communication within the system is done by updating the work unit and internal messaging and queues. So that's it. The HPCC is a huge system, and there was a lot to take in. The overall architecture diagram showed the different areas and components of the HPCC. We explained in this presentation, in part 1, we took a look at the clusters, Thor, Roxy, and HThor, which is our ECL agent. In part 2, we took a look at the middleware, the system servers, Dolly, Sasha, DFU, ECL, and more. And in this video, we took a look at the client interfaces, the ECL IDE, the ECL Watch, and command line tools. So that concludes our overview of HPCC. Thank you so much for watching, and you can now move on to the ECL training videos and other videos on this website. Thank you.